For years, social media has been packed with Europeans confidently declaring that America is overhyped, oversized, overconfident, and definitely not worth the hype. And then, something shifted. Thousands of European tourists started actually visiting America, and they came back with stories that completely contradicted everything they thought they knew.
Have you ever tried ranch, bruv? You've never tried ranch? I can't believe it. I'm gonna smuggle it home with me.
That's actually stunning.
If you've been curious about why so many Europeans are quietly admitting they were wrong about America, if you want more of these cultural analysis videos, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The first thing that catches European visitors off guard is American hospitality. A British traveler visiting a small-town diner in Colorado posted that a stranger in the booth next to him not only paid for his meal, but spent 40 minutes telling him about local hiking trails. A French woman in Austin documented how locals kept inviting her to events, how shopkeepers remembered her name after one visit. A police officer didn't just let her photograph a street mural. He showed her 3 others he thought she'd love. These moments happen because American culture operates on the assumption that a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet. Compare that to the more formal social distance of Germany or the Netherlands, and you start understanding why European visitors describe American warmth as genuinely shocking.
No, the man in the hat already paid for your beers. So we go up to shake his hand. We think it's probably the guy in the big cowboy hat. And he's shaking our hands as a firm handshake. And it's a proper Texas hospitality. He's like, oh yeah, he's just chatting away, asking us where we're going, where we're from. Lovely, lovely Texas man. And then he's like, hold on, wait here. I've got something for you guys. And he gave us both this.
The second shock is the sheer scale of everything. A German visiting Dallas filmed a single gas station, a Buc Ease, that has more square footage than a small European grocery store, with an incomprehensible array of snacks and an entire temperature-controlled beaver statue. Highway systems that would be national engineering triumphs in Europe are just standard infrastructure here. A Dutch engineer visiting spent an hour staring at a typical American suburban mall's parking lot, doing math in his head, before posting that he'd finally understood what America was. A civilization built on the assumption that there would always be enough. When Europeans walk into a Whole Foods and see the sheer quantity of options, or realize that a single highway has more lanes than they've ever seen in their country, or discover that a small American home is roughly double the size of a middle-class European home, something in their understanding shifts. Which brings us to nature and geography. A French tourist standing in front of the Colorado Plateau Canyons posted that she'd spent her whole life thinking geography was something you could understand. But the Grand Canyon had convinced her that America was a different kind of geography altogether.
So I can't help falling in love with Return to Sender.
A German driving across 3 different time zones in 24 hours realized that what he thought of as a cross-continent journey was just Tuesday in Arizona. There are bodies of water, the Great Lakes, that are so large they're essentially inland seas. When you're standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon, or realizing that the American West encompasses more distinct ecosystems and more wilderness than your entire country, that realization lands differently than it does in a travel guide. Safety completely upends European expectations. Americans are told constantly that their country is dangerous, and Europe has built an identity around being safer and more civilized.
Here are just a few ways that America has changed me for the better. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Hannah. I'm a British mum currently living in the US, and I genuinely think I've changed as a person since moving here. Here's just a few examples. Number 1, I actually love talking to strangers now. I've touched on this before, but when I first moved here, I found it almost excruciating talking to strangers. Like the small talk and things like that, I just found it very uncomfortable and I wasn't used to it. But now I love it.
And then a Dutch family visits Los Angeles and posts videos from packed beaches, from busy downtown streets at night, from police officers who help them find restaurants, and they describe feeling completely safe. A Swedish teenager visiting New York for the first time expressed shock not at how dangerous it was, but at how many people were out at every hour, how orderly the subway was despite being packed. An English couple in Miami documented the friendliness of a police officer during a minor traffic stop. He was genuinely kind, made jokes, and recommended the best Cuban food. The streets are clean, crowds are manageable, and law enforcement interacts with the public in ways that can feel more relaxed than in Europe.
I am literally living my childhood dream here as an Englishman. We're at Disneyland. Where do we go first?
California.
California?
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta get on cars and go.
Oh, they got cars here. Oh my gosh.
There's a chamoy watermelon.
Chamoy watermelon.
Money and economics reshape expectations too. A Polish software developer visiting San Francisco discovered that entry-level tech jobs paid 3 times what he'd make in Warsaw, and that companies provided housing assistance, transportation, and benefits that seemed unbelievable. A French marketer discovered her American equivalent made 40% more for the same job, and even accounting for healthcare premiums and taxes, the take-home difference was substantial. A British accountant realized homeownership rates among millennials are actually higher in America than in most of Northern Europe, despite the housing crisis narrative. When Europeans discover that wages are high enough to offset costs, that saving is actually possible, that risk-taking is economically rewarded in ways it isn't in regulated European economies, they update their models. Patriotism is another layer that's almost impossible to understand from a distance. Americans seem to genuinely like their country and express that without the self-conscious distance that characterizes European national identity.
Oi, mate, check this out. They put milk in the icebox. They put fucking milk in the icebox. Everything is so big here. Look at this piece of pizza. It's huge.
A German visiting a small town in Pennsylvania during 4th of July was moved by sincere patriotism, by flags and community, by a national anthem sung without irony. An Italian who'd grown up in a country where patriotism had been damaged by fascism described American patriotism as almost naively positive, a belief in a country's potential, expressed through small-town parades and public symbols. That emotional core, the sense that you can love your country without irony, is something that resonates powerfully with people from countries where national identity has been complicated by history. Food and everyday life operate as constant reminders of different value systems. When Europeans encounter American portion sizes, the instinct is to laugh at restaurant burgers the size of a child's head. But over time, they understand that abundance reflects the same confidence about resources that shows up everywhere else. A Dutch woman who'd spent 3 times as much in Paris for a carefully calibrated meal found New York offered abundance as default. A Swedish visitor to a diner was struck by unlimited coffee refills in Swedish coffee culture. You buy a cup, and you're done. The American model of unlimited refills suggests confidence that customers will return, that generosity builds loyalty. Drive-through culture, often mocked as lazy, actually represents a solution to a different problem. Americans commute greater distances, and convenience infrastructure is built into the system.
We're currently in America, and I really need to know what Starbucks are putting into these coffees, because Starbucks in the UK tastes rubbish. It tastes rubbish. I hate it. Starbucks in America, exact same order, delicious, absolutely fantastic. Can't get enough.
And here's where the real shift happens. Europeans who arrived absolutely convinced America was overhyped, having to publicly walk back those assumptions. A Spanish startup founder visited Silicon Valley expecting hype and empty promises, and came back describing genuine innovation and risk-taking he'd underestimated. A French journalist who'd built a career on skeptical pieces about American exceptionalism spent 2 weeks there and wrote admitting America's competitive advantages were real. An Austrian economist visiting a conference was impressed by the willingness to try radical approaches. These aren't people abandoning critical thinking, they're updating their models because reality contradicted their expectations. The Europeans arriving skeptical and leaving, having to admit they were wrong, is quietly reshaping how people think about America. So the real question isn't whether America is overhyped or underrated. It's whether you can understand a civilization from the outside, from skepticism and distance, or whether you need to move through it as a person from a different way of doing things. Europeans with preconceived notions, leaving with revised ones, are going through what genuine cross-cultural understanding requires, replacing abstract judgments with lived experience. That matters because it suggests that dismissals of America might be coming from distance rather than engagement. The confidence, the scale, the warmth, the abundance, the belief that more is possible, these aren't new characteristics. They've been baked into American culture for centuries. What's changed is that more Europeans are actually going there to see it themselves, and they can't unsee it. If you had to choose between trusting your assumptions about a place or experiencing it firsthand, which would you choose? If you're interested in more videos exploring the gap between how we think about the world and how it actually works, hit like, share this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Finally, a quick note. This video is a compilation of publicly available social media posts and traveler experiences shared across platforms synthesized to explore a cultural pattern. It represents specific anecdotes rather than a comprehensive statistical survey of all European tourists or all American experiences. Different people have different experiences, and these stories represent one version of a much larger and more complex reality. The content doesn't constitute official policy positions, and individual decisions should be informed by your own research and multiple perspectives, not solely by any single video. We're not responsible for choices based on this content. The goal is to offer insight and spark conversation. Thanks for watching.